Myles Caggins III is a retired colonel in the US Army and former spokesman for the global coalition to defeat ISIS in Iraq and Syria. He's joining us from New York. So thank you very much indeed for being with us on Al Jazeera. Now, the US backed the SDF when the SDF was fighting ISIL in Syria and Iraq, but it's also, of course, backing President al-Shara as well. Is there a role for the US in this conflict?
America has an important role to bring all sides together to stop the fighting in Aleppo and the siege of the two neighborhoods that your correspondent has been reporting from. As part of the removal of Caesar sanctions, President Trump has an expectation that the Syrian government in Damascus will protect minorities, including Kurds, Christians, Alawites, Yazidis, and all people of Syria. And also the Syrian transitional government led by President al-Shara must integrate the Syrian Democratic Forces in the northeast with the forces of the Syrian Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Interior. America has a prime and essential role to bringing peace for people inside of Syria.
The violence that we're seeing at the moment around particularly Aleppo is being blamed on a breakdown in talks to try to merge the Kurdish forces into the Syrian military. What are the chances, do you think, for those talks? Because, of course, a lot of that is going to be based on trust. And even if the fighting ends, do you think that the US, for example, would be able to play a role in bringing both sides together?
The United States just convened a meeting this week with Israel and Syrian Ministry of Foreign Affairs leaders, and that has led to some positive developments. And the U.S. has convened and encouraged additional talks related to the unity of security forces. What's important to remember, though, is that this current operations, the three-day siege on these neighborhoods in Aleppo, has resulted in about 100 casualties, including more than 12 deaths, including deaths of children and elderly civilians. More than 100,000 people are now displaced in the wintertime in Syria. And all of this is preventable and unnecessary. And the U.S. must use its influence with all leaders in Syria to lead to immediate de-escalation and a ceasefire agreement.
How much do you think this particular series of incidents, this violence that we're seeing, is a test of the Shara's government's ability to secure Syria, not just in the face of the Syrian people, but of course in the face of the foreign governments around the world and investors who the Shara government is very keen to see invest in Syria?
I work with some American companies that are interested in making significant investments that will improve the economy of Syria and provide essential and critical revenues for the Syrian central government, as well as the communities in northeastern Syria. And we can see that from the statements from the UK, from Canada and EU, that there's a lot of global concern about what's happening right now in Aleppo. This is why Syria must be viewed as a place that is stable. It must be viewed as a place that is welcoming to outsiders who are there to bring commerce and investments. And Syria's central government and the Kurds in northeast Syria reject the influence of terrorist and extremist groups.
I mentioned before that you're a former spokesman for the global coalition to defeat ISIL in Iraq and Syria. In your estimation, what is the risk, do you think, that other armed groups within Syria could take advantage of the distraction that this current round of violence is presenting to try to make their own gains within Syria?
Some of the groups that have come under the umbrella of the Syrian Ministry of Defense and Interior are designated terrorist organizations. The ideology, the mindset, and the activities of these groups for the past 14 or 15 years has been jihadist in nature. So the U.S. must move with caution and deliberately encourage President Shara to ensure that all of the security forces that are working with the U.S. are vetted, and that all security forces must focus on bringing peace and stability for all people of Syria.
It's really interesting to get your thoughts on this, and we appreciate you being with us on Al Jazeera. So thank you, Myles Caggins.
Don't miss out and get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.